Now for our guests, Bennington County Open Arms, maybe you've heard of it, is a newborn in the world of refugee resettlement. The idea for the organization was started early this summer with a dream of welcoming asylum seekers from the U.S. southern border. We've been really aware of that. But in August, we all know what happened in Afghanistan, so there have been a lot of folks who are going to need a home thanks to that big challenge. So the Bennington Open Arms are hoping to provide a home for some folks who are coming into our area. They've identified a resettlement agency to work with. They have begun raising money and have done a pretty good job so far. Have collected household items, affordable, convenient housing with landlords who are eager to welcome refugees to Bennington. And they're eager to put together a robust community support, that's us, for this initiative because of the potential to have a positive impact on our community. Immigrants cost a little bit on the short-term basis, but they, in the long term, provide a vibrant community and a lot of diversity that can make our town a better place and more inviting to keep people here living among us. So we have three special guests today, and the first is Grace. The first is Anandarupa, who used to be an investment banker and currently is a yoga teacher. So we're really glad to have you with us, Anandarupa, and I'll introduce the other two guests so that you'll know who's coming. But there's Brian Dalton, who's a retired diplomat, spent 30 years trying to help people get along with each other. And
see how well that works.
Well, yes, okay. And then we have Grace Winslow, who's been a guest of ours on other occasions and a great friend and has a really burning heart for people who need a hand to make home. So, Anandarupa, here we go. Thank you.
So, first of all, thank you on behalf of Bennington County Open Arms for letting us do this presentation in front of the Rotary International. And actually, thinking again, presenting this for this group, this is the last time I did a presentation at the Rotary International was when I received a Rotary scholarship to go study abroad. So when I came back, I had to do a presentation about Finland. I will do that today. We can do that another time. But here, you know, I have been since being involved in the Bennington County Open Arms. I've noticed I would say there's three inflection points. We keep hearing that lately during the pandemic. Really 3 times in my life that really changed, and that's really April 30th, 1975. So I am a Vietnamese descent. I came from Saigon, Sachau, Vietnam. Family came to the United States in 1975, and through the generosity of 2 Lutheran churches, we were sponsored and settled in North Dakota and Minnesota. So as you can see, I mean, you can tell a little bit right here, there's a little bit of a personal involvement or experience. So I feel like this project has helped me to come full round in my karmic circle. Now I'm on the other end, hopefully, in hoping to welcome these new arrivals into our homes or into Bennington County. So now if I can have Brian, would you like to come? Or Grace?
How about me?
Or is it Grace?
How about me?
Thanks, Grace.
I am blessed to be with people who can speak on their feet, but I'm a reader. So I grew up in a small town, smaller than Bennington, probably about half the size of Bennington. And I know it's like to be part of a brain drain from a wonderful community, just because I was seeking more diversity in my life. Going to college was great, but I wanted to keep going with more diversity. My husband and I moved from town to town, usually big towns, almost all very diverse. And when we came to Bennington, we came for a job at the hospital and really wanted to stay because it's beautiful, and it was midway between our 2 families and wanted to stay, but we were very concerned about the homogeneity of the population and the impact that would inevitably have on our children. Our children are white and black, male and female. Anyway, we really wanted to stay, so we decided instead of whining about it, we would bring diversity here. So when my daughter hit high school, we started having students from abroad come and stay with us for a year. We had 11 hosts We hosted 11 students from all over the world. We had 2 who were from Afghanistan, and those 2 were really key to my passion for Afghanistan for the past 10 to 12 years. So our daughter, I should mention this, you guys sent her to Bolivia, God bless you, where she had a wonderful experience, so wonderful that she became a Spanish teacher at Mount Anthony. Between when she arrived in Bolivia and when she became a Spanish teacher, she also lived in Quebec for about half a year to learn Quebecois. She also became a Peace Corps volunteer in Ethiopia. She learned Amharic. She was teaching English, and she was teaching empowering young women for their future. You know what a mess Ethiopia is now. That mess began while she was still there, so she had to exit early, but only by about 9 months. So she was there for about a year and a quarter. So she has had quite the experience, in part due to this club. So applaud yourselves for that. Okay, reading. Okay, one of Rotary International's goals is to support education. You guys all know that, I don't have to tell you. One of the things that I was really focused on when we had exchange students coming was I needed people, kids especially, in Bennington to be educated about people from around the world, because I think that that kind of knowledge of other people helps them develop an idea of what their place and the place in and responsibility to other people is. We do have, because we are blessed in the United States, we are blessed. We do have some responsibility to look out for other people. Rotary International is all about that. You guys know that. Bennington sort of suffers from a little bit of brain drain also, just like I did to my own hometown. Got, graduated almost top of my class and moved on looking for diversity. I suspect that we have other children in this community that do the same thing. I would really love to retain them. When my daughter came back to Bennington, I could not believe my good luck. I tried my very best not to just demonstrate my glee in front of her, because I was afraid of driving her away. But here she is. She's gotten married, she's raising goats, and she seems pretty settled. So thank you all for that. And now I'd like to introduce Brian Dalton.
Thank you, Grayson and Andrew. Can you hear me in the back?
Yes, we can.
Okay, because I'll leave my mask on. I was thinking along these lines, but hearing these two and you all talk, I was reminded about the role that Rotary International plays as a bridge between communities everywhere, often in small places that may not have a very diverse population, connecting it to the world. I'm another beneficiary of a Rotary scholarship, thank you very much. Up the road, the Manchester chapter gave me a scholarship which I really needed to go to college. Piecing that together with other scholarships got me to go to the School of Foreign Service at Georgetown University in Washington, D.C., from where I was able to get a job as a student at the U.S. Department of State reading for the Blind Economist, and that helped me then get admitted into the U.S. Foreign Service, where I was your tax dollars at work for 28 years. Thank you very much. And then retired and came back, and wanting to integrate that work experience with the town that my husband and I moved back to. I guess I'm a boomerang. That's what they say. The diversity of experiences in Vermont communities is quite broad, so it's not fair to say that it's not diverse in that way. But it's also been good for the kids in the schools that I was in Vermont to have that exposure to people from other experiences and cultures coming here. And Rotary has been a part of that, and that's why we're here talking to you today. You know probably in general, but about 1 million people become new U.S. citizens every year. About 2% of U.S. economic growth every year is predicated on that rate of new blood coming from abroad. That's made up of people coming through the family and employment immigration programs, the refugee program, and the asylum program, all who are federally managed programs where the people are vetted and approved, proving that they're in the category they belong. And of the Fortune 500 companies, 44% were started by new immigrants or their children.
Wow.
Nandrup has some more stats to do with Vermont specifically, but we see that there's so much dynamism that comes when there's new blood of any type. That's why we're called Bennington County Open Arms. Bennington County will always benefit from new blood. Many of us came from somewhere else and decided that this would be the place to make our home. So we're looking forward, possibly with working with you, with your support, to continue that tradition in this corner of Vermont. And back to you.
Thanks, Brian. So yes, in preparing for this presentation, I found some interesting statistics. Do you know that 28,247 immigrants make up 4.5% of Vermont's population? Oh, wow. I mean, small, but they produce, 5% of self-employed business owners in Vermont are immigrants. 5%. And they produce roughly an estimate of 55.4 million in revenue in 2018. It's estimated by the state. So the immigrants are in our community, and they're here now working around us. And I think we hope to Bennington County Open Arms will integrate a new arrivals that will be coming down the pipeline, as you've already heard what's going on in Afghanistan, and that our Governor Phil Scott has asked for at least 100 Afghan families to come to Vermont. So what we're asking for, first of all, from Bennington County Open Arms, asking of the Rotary Club here is for first your support. How? I think many other ways, from advocacy, because we might have to lobby. I don't want to just get in the weeds right now about the refugee status, blah, 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 but we might have to advocate our state representative and governor to allow refugees to come to Bennington County, or to southern Vermont in general. We would want to, there's donations from big to small. For example, my mother-in-law has promised me she'll bake for our new arrivals rather than for me. She thinks I'm too skinny, but I go, great, she loves to bake, so please bake for our new arrivals. Other people like Bennington College has already offered us, Bennington County Open Arms, that if you have an Afghani professor who's qualified, they already have a position and money put aside for an Afghani professor and housing. And other, of course, being Bennington County Rotary Club, if you have a list of potential jobs that are coming up, we would love to be able to, once we get a family, come to the Rotary Club, say, we have these people with these skills. Maybe you have within your network jobs available. So on all these levels, of course, financial contributions are always welcome. We're trying to work with other groups to get a fiscal sponsorship. So hopefully we'll get that settled within the next month or so. So in the meantime, I think just for an update, we're probably on a waiting, kind of holding pattern. These refugees are being vetted right now by the State Department in places like Fort Lee, and we hear a lot of them are going to places where there are already Afghani community, like California or Texas. So they will be coming, and we just don't know when, so we're getting ready. But thanks to our good luck, we did find a 2-bedroom apartment in Bennington from a former Peace Corps volunteer who's willing to hold it for us for now until we get an Afghan family. So we've just been really blessed. And during this project, I've been just meeting some wonderful people like Grace and people from the Second Congregation and other communities. So we hope you come join with us, because I keep saying, if it takes a village to raise a child, it'll take more than many villages to welcome new arrivals to our Bennington County. So if you have any question to answer, Brian and Grace and I would love to answer any questions you might have. Sir?
Do most of these people coming in from Afghanistan, are they able to speak English?
Grace, you want? Go, Brian.
We know that the SI visas, special immigrant visas, were given out to people who predominantly had helped the U.S. military. So some of them will have some basic English, some of them will have a lot of English. I've heard interviews of some SIV holders that their English is excellent. I can barely pick out an accent. So it'll vary. The people that are not SIV holders, probably their English is going to be not great. Right now, the people who are waiting at Quantico or Fort Lee or wherever are taking English lessons. And because they have been hearing it for 20 years from people that are around them in Afghanistan, because we've been there for so long, they will have some very, like nominal level at least to build on.
So English language coaches is another way that
Yep.
other people have volunteered. Some of you may have done that to help them with either they're doing formal lessons somewhere else, but a little informal conversation or just meeting for coffee to go through the lesson is a real nice way that somebody could volunteer without making a huge contribution of time.
To answer your question, Jerry, part of your question, the expectation is that within 3 to 6 months, they will be independent, which means they've got to learn language really quickly. So they don't really have a choice of remaining unable to speak English. So they should be able to at least shop, they should be able to take care of themselves, they should be able to hold down jobs. Yeah.
So, just reading the little bits and pieces of the news, I think probably from Vermont Digger, it sounds like the groups are Chittenden County because there's more resources. I heard or read something about Brattleboro. And I guess my question is, if I were one family coming here, it sounds like we were just expecting maybe getting one family. It's kind of like lonely. No?
Well, actually, no, like, I can speak to that. It depends. Like we said, we're Bennington County Open Arms, so we have an apartment for one family, but actually we have people are coming up they have like a house or an in-law unit they're not using. So we're working with them too for a homestay. Of course, those people will be moved on. So, right now as we have more housing options, and you know how housing is hard to find here, so that will be difficult. And just from my personal experience, I came here in 1975. Our Vietnamese family did not want to go with the Vietnamese because we wanted to make sure we can learn English, not to speak Vietnamese. So yes, we hope there will be some Afghan family who might not want to go and live within an Afghan community. And so we just have to wait and see. Yes, we saw that report. And Grace did send that report this morning. Any other questions? Yes, sir, in the back.
Yeah, thank you. First of all, thank you for doing this work. And I've always been concerned for a long time now that as a country with an overall declining population, we absolutely need immigrants more than ever. And it strikes me that, just to be clear, to build on the comment we just heard, this is an ongoing effort. It's not just a one-year effort around the Afghans. The organization started before the Afghan crisis happened. So can we expect that we could see a steady flow in future grants?
Well, let's see how we do at our fundraising and finding housing. But I'm sorry. I met Brian in 1992 when we first met together. I was looking for a job after graduate from college. Grad school. But he was still working on the Vietnamese refugee issue in 1992. And, we ended the war we withdrew in 1972. So you can see how long that war lasts. Well, so I'm guessing that, Bennington County Open Arms wants to be around for a long time dealing with Afghan refugee issues. There will be more coming in the next 20 years, unfortunately. Oh, and other countries, sorry. Yes, we are working with the group that you saw out at Brattleboro called ECDC. They started hosting Ethiopian refugees, but now they work on all different refugees from different African nations as well from Latin America. And also, we were put together through a community asylum seekers project out of Brattleboro that has been hosting, people fleeing persecution in Latin America. Over the Mexican-Texas border in Vermont. So there's also that group that we could also host as well. Yes, ma'am.
Has your group talked to the local municipalities? I'm thinking with the ARPA, the American Rescue Plan monies that are going to the towns. number one use of that is for housing. And
Right.
I'm wondering if any of those municipalities are interested in building homes.
You may have seen a report in the press about the housing summit on
Last week?
last week that happened up in Arlington, but we had the Bennington town planner who's been there for 30 years, I've forgotten his name, but he was great. So the answer is yes. The municipalities around the state are very focused on using whatever resources they can to increase housing for everyone, because we know this is our particular focus, finding a home for a family or two or three, but we know that it's in the context of every young working person that we know not being able to afford a house even though both parents are working. So the ARPA money is one big source. There was a lot of information. If housing is of interest to you, the reporting from that summit would be of interest to you. There's a lot of focus on working to make sure the zoning for each city is up to speed. Zoning was often put in place in the 70s to kind of manage really fast growth at the time, but the ideas from the 1970s don't match current realities, so towns, Manchester did a revamp of their zoning. I don't know the situation in Bennington. Arlington is looking at theirs to allow more infilling, mother-in-law units, garage apartments, building a little cottage if you've got a large yard. Indeed, that's very much on the topic. I was very impressed by our current housing commissioner, forgetting his name, but he was Joshua Harmon, perhaps, and he showed himself to be very well informed of all the tools and levers and pots of money and of the reality. He grew up in Vermont and he knows the actual reality people are facing, so he was not a kind of theoretical bureaucrat, and that gave me encouragement. And I could go on, but yes.
But just extending that point, for example, we have a former legislator who offers space in our home for, again, refugee. So we were going to work with her by finding, they just need to be some upgrade, like bathroom or something, I'm not so sure, but we know there are going to be money, so we're going to work with her to find money to help her upgrade that space so it can be a separate unit and, to rent it out for a new arrival. And I think that was a requirement of this money, that people with low income, and of course, refugees have no income.
Thanks, that reminded me of some point that might be of interest to some of you individually in the realty business, that there's state money available for a landlord who has an apartment, but maybe it's fallen down over the years and it really needs to be spruced up and modernized or made safe, but they don't have the capital. There's money from the state to fix those units up, so with the intent that they rejoin the housing pool. But I think a lot of landlords may not know that money is there, but it is. So if you can also spread the word, if you know somebody who's got an extra wing to their house, they can either use this money to adapt it to that or bring something back up to code.
And rent it to us.
Any other questions? I'm sorry, yes, ma'am.
If you were interested, I would love to do the getting together with coffee and just helping somebody with English. How do you go ahead and sign up for something like that?
Were you hired as the ringer for us?
Well, Grace is my neighbor, so I can.
Grace is,
and
for those of you who are not lucky enough to be Grace's neighbor, you can email us at BC, Bennington County, clever, bcopenarms@gmail.com, and we can send that through. But we would love to hear, and don't be nervous that if you say, I'd like to help somehow, that we're going to latch on to you and you're going to be working full time. Don't worry. We know that you're busy, but if you can do that one thing, and somebody else really likes helping people with bureaucratic forms. I know it's a thing. They will be needing to do that. If they come in a certain status, they might be having to apply for asylum, and there's paperwork involved with that. So pretty much, because you're trying to replicate the community and network of support that we all have by virtue of living here for somebody who has just been, in 5 minutes, ripped up from their life and plunked down somewhere else. So we kind of think of ourselves as the roots growing back to support this new tree. And so it takes a little bit of everything. Sir?
I'm just curious with the coronavirus and all that that's going around, how are you handling interchanges and so forth and so on?
So they would be all, before they would arrive, they've gone through a whole background check that runs across the interagency, U.S. government interagency, and the full health check. So they wouldn't be able to come here unless they've passed the health muster, including screening for coronavirus.
And vaccination.
Then once they come,
And vaccination.
Oh, vaccinated.
and vaccinated, and then once they came, we would be observing all the CDC guidelines to keep them safe and everybody around them safe.
So all the people will be vaccinated?
But yes, it's my understanding.
They're living in communal housing right now, sorry. They're living in communal housing right now and in military bases, and they are vaccinated. They wouldn't have everybody together in one place without vaccinations.
All right then. Thank you very much for your time. I know you have to get on to your